everyone. Thank you for joining and thank you for watching the film just before this. You might recognise Josh, who is the creator of the wonderful documentary that we just watched called Extinction, and also directs and writes and acts in a lot of other socially conscious work that spans fiction, documentary, and the space in between. And we also have with us Paul. Paul is the founder of Rewriting Extinction, which is a charity that raises awareness for both the climate and the biodiversity crisis through media. So in 2021, Paul published this book, which is called The Most Important Comic Book on Earth. And it has stories to save the world. And now Paul and his team create films, TV shows, music, and board games to reach mass audiences. So welcome to the stage, Paul and Josh, and thank you for being with us today. I'm going to start off. I'm going to go a little bit off script, and we'll see what happens. Josh, have your children watched the film?
They actually have seen chunks of it, yeah. Okay. And they saw, we did the Green Man Festival, you know, it's a music festival, lovely festival. And I thought, well, I'll take the kids to the music festival because they're paying, that's nice, never done anything like that. Wouldn't ever dare to do anything like that, just messy children, no. But got there, much more capable parents were doing that kind of parenting. And then the film was on, I thought, my children should see the film, they're in it.
Yeah.
And they're worrying about climate change in the film. And, you know, they were 6 and, how old were they when they were actually in the film? Because they're quite a bit younger now. I think he's about 6 or 7, my oldest, now he's 10. So there they are in the film. So I thought, and then it worked out that we got there a bit late for the panel and so on, and they watched the last 20 minutes, and I think they got something from it and so on. Yeah. But I'm really happy they didn't see 22 minutes before where I'm sucking on a vape constantly. Yeah. As far as they don't, they think smoking is bad and only something criminals and evil people do. So I've successfully brainwashed. I nearly so they now can't see the film in toto until they're like 40.
Yeah. So they only got to see. Did they get to see the bits that they were in?
I showed them the bits they were in. I thought, ethically speaking, that needed to be done.
And what was their reception? Do you think it's changed their perceptions of climate change?
I mean, I think they're too young to know what's going on. I think what's changed their perceptions of climate change is me being really depressed about it, and then them having loads of weird nightmares, and then me thinking maybe I should rein back the doom chat, and now I just don't mention it at all. But it's been internalized, so don't worry, they're afraid.
It sounds like you're doing the same thing that most media companies are doing. Just don't mention it, pretend it's not happening.
I flip-flopped. I've done the worst in no continuity. As a parent, let me tell you, that's,
But that is an important point, and something that we talked about before is sort of that contrast between hope that we're trying to generate, and I think COP itself is trying to focus on the hope and the elements of progress and change, but also bringing out a bit of the doom and gloom. And how do you guys strike that balance between both of those when we're talking about
I could do doom and you could do gloom.
Yeah, double team.
Okay, yeah. God, Paul, you say something. I don't know.
So, I mean, this is just me talking, just my own personal feeling. I find the problem with doom and gloom is like telling you that your house is on fire, not telling you where the fire extinguisher is. So for me, I think you can tell a beautifully sad story. Something that actually takes science and facts and turns into a fiction that people can actually resonate with. I was talking about it earlier. So, for example, 1 billion seabirds die every year of plastic ingestion. That's pretty scary, right? But it's a number. But if I told you a story about an albatross mother who had a sick chick, and she's trying to basically feed her chick, but all she can find is cigarette butts and plastic, and she's then actually poisoning her own chick with the food that she's bringing in, it hits differently. So I think it's basically trying to understand for me the emotion that's going to actually drive some change. And some stories are going to be sad, some are going to be hopeful, but you can't make an inherently sad thing hopeful. Otherwise, you're just not doing it a service.
And I think with narrative arts, whether they're short form, long form, written, filmed, whatever, that what they can offer is not ideation or it's feelings. It's like feel your feelings. If you do the narrative right, you'll feel your feelings. If you do it wrong, it'll feel like someone's tapping you on the shoulder going, you should be more worried about this because it's really bad. And as soon as it's preachy and tendentious and kind of that, the horses, the cart's leading the horse, then you've sort of lost that battle. And it is tricky when you've got essentially a political message or a human message, whatever, but something that has a politics attached to it. There's always the danger that you make like political art and it's ideological and it's boring. And I made this documentary partly because I thought, I can see how to make a film about somebody getting into climate action and to make it funny because he's the butt of the joke. The only person that it would be fair to do that to is myself. So I thought, I'll put myself in it and I'll be the butt of the joke, because I was a climate baddie. You know, I was making car commercials. I was supposedly worried about it, but never did anything at all. And just kept asking myself, why is that? Why can't I seem to do it, nor anyone that I know? You know, why are we all paralyzed and stymied by these feelings? And it does come back to feeling, because in the film what you see, you know, feeling is what, sharing feelings with others rather than kind of trying to get rid of them and repress them, is what unlocks, like we're doing here at COP28, if you wanted to put a positive spin, or at least on this panel, we're talking about things that are real and felt, and suddenly they transform by their nature. Things that paralyze you, like guilt and fear and impotence and rage, you know, when you're alone with them, once they are shared in a milieu of feeling, even just a little tiny bit goes a long way. Suddenly, those same feelings become the impetus for action, the basis for action. That rage is like, yeah, fucking let's break some shit. You know, a guilt, oh God, I do feel really about this. I'm going to change this, you know. So I think that's what the film tries to kind of take you on a little journey about. So I, you know, play myself a little bit and play a kind of version of myself as quite a sort of cynical idiot and self-serving. And by the end, I'm sort of incrementally less a self-serving idiot, but only incrementally. That's an important part of the message, you know. You're not going to change that much, but just a tiny bit can go a long way. It's like fairy liquid. It's great.
And you said that you're sort of playing yourself. What came first? Was it the idea for the film, or was it you going on that journey?
I can't even remember because it's like years ago. I'd done a couple of other films like this. I've made some fiction films, made some documentary films, and I made some films where they're sort of in the middle and I'm sometimes in them as myself. I've done a couple of films like this. So I knew this was a sort of comic documentary shtick that I knew could work, like a sort of self-comedy thing. And then the climate thing, no, it was very simple. I saw Extinction Rebellion on the news and I thought, well, that looks fucking cool. I haven't seen anything like that since Occupy. You know, and the Occupy movement was amazing and special. So I thought, I'll go down. And I went down, and as soon as I went down, I had an amazing time, talked to people, wished I'd taken my camera. And so then the next time it popped up, I said, I'm going to do this. And so I think it was that. It's, as a filmmaker, you know that there's a story and there's a visual component, there's an aesthetic, there's something that feels fresh. As a documentarian, this is sort of not to be repeated. You know, all those bits of synergy happen at once, I think, yeah.
Great. And Paul, you also are passionate about sort of bringing out the storytelling element of this action, climate action. How do you think storytelling can position itself in relation to science? All the science and the policy going on in the blue zone right now, you know, we keep hearing the 1.5 degrees number. Why is this the film, the arts, the media, the comic books, what position does that have to play against or with or for science?
Well, just again, I think all of us at Riva Extinction have a mission, and our mission is to basically reach the mainstream. And the reason we do that is because unless you get a global consensus that environmentalism matters, biodiversity matters, and looking after our planet matters, you won't see change. So the people in the blue zone, the people out there who are deciding the policies that will change our planet, they need to know we care. And at the moment, the problem that I find is you've got a lot of climate scientists who are doing incredible work, but they're not being listened to, because facts and figures don't change minds. Like with the Black Lives Matter movement, it sometimes takes those inflection points, that human story, or that's something people can gather around. So what we try and do at Rewriting Extinction is we try to make those stories fictional stories so that you can wrap around an issue and then you engage a mass audience to say, well, let's do something about that. So we made a comic, for example, on bycatch, and it's absolutely terrifying stat that if you eat a shrimp, there's usually 94 other fish or mammals or dolphins that have died for each shrimp you have.
No way.
So if you have a shrimp cocktail, as many as 10,000 fish and dolphins have been killed to make that shrimp cocktail.
Oh, that's put me right off.
So, and what we try and do is find a way of actually getting that story out there. We're actually a bit cheeky with this one. So we made a very funny comic. It's all about a shark that went to the library to read about bycatch, and then he opens a book. He's like, oh my God, this is horrible. I can't read. And it was just a very simple joke. And then what we did after we did that comic, we then said, well, let's do an Instagram Live. And that's when we told the audience, we basically pulled them in with a joke, and then we said that fact I just told you about. And then that drove about 1.3 million signatures in 3 hours to a Greenpeace petition that was then taken to the UN to put aside 30% of the oceans of the planet as no fish zones. And it's a story that did that. The facts just, they don't always wash. And that's why I think that for me, I don't want to talk for Josh because Josh talks for Josh far better than I can, but for me, I think our role at Rewriting Extinction is to sit between the science and the policy and the change we want to see in the world and the mass audience, and to make content that connects them up. If that's
Yeah. Great answer. Just to question or push on that a little bit, the way I've, in my role, seen this industry going is that more and more people know and believe and want to try and make a change, but where we see the gap is them actually going and doing it, and that's a struggle you faced, Josh, in your documentary, and also, willingness to pay is something we come across again and again. It's like, are you gonna put your money where your actions are? Do you think that your media can play a role in that, converting to action?
Me or Josh?
You go first, and then we'll come back to Josh.
So I tend to think of it like exercise. I use this analogy all the time, so apologies if you've heard it before. I think we just need to recognize that not everybody is equal and not everyone can do equal things. Some people may have a job that means that they're going home to an empty house. They may not have very little money. But if you think of it about like exercise and say, well, okay, there's a range of exercises you can do. There's a range of machines you can work out on. And maybe, Riva, your thing is a treadmill. Maybe you want to start slow. Maybe you just want to kind of work up to it. Josh, maybe you're benching 30, bro. Maybe you're benching 300.
300.
Yeah. And just to not judge people and not to say, hey, do you know what, Riva, you need to be doing more. You need to be doing what Josh is doing. Or I need to be doing what you're doing. So, my opinion on it is, and this is just, again, my personal opinion, is put your arm around somebody, try and understand where they're coming from. Because we haven't lived in their shoes. We don't know the grief or the personal story they have. And just understand that people inherently are never the bad person in their story. No one thinks themselves as an evil person or a person who does bad things. So what we try and do is we empathize with the person we're talking to and then say, hey, here's a bit of content. We've made it for you. You might like it. And if you do like it, there's this thing you can do. It'll take you 5 minutes. If you like, but no judgment if you don't. And that's quite different to other environmental groups that seem to use guilt as a hammer to smash someone's brain in. And we're just not down for that. It's just not what we do. And there's no disrespect to them. That's how their mode operates. It's how they work.
And yeah.
Sorry.
No, exactly. But also just, one must be careful not to sort of think of this as a level playing ground. It's not like there are people and they have busy lives, and if they can just get the right information or feel the right feelings, then they'll start to activate. That may sometimes be true. It's sometimes mysterious why someone doesn't activate and so on. But it's not a level playing field. It's a playing field in which very powerful, fossil fuel related lobby groups and other vested interest groups, who are adjacent to very powerful people, at the top of governments. For example, our own government. In the film, we protest against the Tufton Street group that include, some of these economic advisors behind fun stuff like Trussonomics, and these people have got the levers of power, and they are trying to make anything climate related sound impossibly complicated. And don't worry, because tech will sort it. And it's not as bad as they say, or they used to just say it's not even true. They've changed that, but they move with the times. They have great PR firms, and they're right there in government. There's a rotating door between the Tufton Street group, for example, and several MPs. The ex-editor of the Telegraph and owner of the Spectator. These people are very powerful, and they have a counter-narrative where they want to preserve their oil and oil-related interests, and the same is even more true, in the States and so on. So you've got to balance this. The propaganda side of it is sort of saying, yeah, don't worry, too complicated, blah. So what we've got to do is say, actually, totally doable, not this massive, inassimilable, global extinction level problem that you couldn't possibly in your little life deal with. Actually, small problem about eating shrimp, which is fun, and that you can, talk to your kids about, or whatever it is. And narrative, it's about controlling the narrative, because there's another side, and they're very good at controlling narrative. Like it says in the film, we're the mad ones. The other guys have a very coherent worldview. It's like, regulation is communism, don't you take my truck away, you're not a real man unless you blah, blah, blah. It's like very coherent. It's like wealth and might is right, vote Trump, all of that. It makes a lot of sense. It's like going to protect you from all the uncertainties that plague us and that we just don't want to think about. It's a great credo, apart from it's super destructive and fascistic. Okay, whereas we've apart from that one thing. But whereas we've got kind of like, oh no, you should, sorry, feel bad, liberals, blah. It can be quite. So you've got to grip the narrative.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know if you guys know, Rishi Sunak in the UK and the Tory government were saying that we're going to be getting these oil and gas licenses to drill so that we can have less carbon for our oil. It's to serve the UK. But it's utter bullshit. Yep. Because most of the oil, of course, is then sold and exported, which, funnily enough, happens from one of his family members. So it's that sort of shit they control the narrative so well that 99% of people just heard what he says. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, you get oil. It's our oil. Great. That means you don't have to ship it in from Russia or whatever. They don't realize they're probably selling it to Russia. So it's this. Yeah, the narrative is so important. I think that's why, as creators and people in the kind of cultural war, if you like, we just got to be smart. We got to also understand basically not just the problem, but also why the audiences aren't engaging. What's stopping them?
Yeah,
and then
you've got to become a sort of expert in counter propaganda at some level. Yeah, which is why Peter Pomerantsev that's his specialty. That's why he's so good in the film, because he suddenly makes you think, oh shit, this is what this is about. This isn't about me recycling and talking to my kids. Yes, it's all that, or going on a protest and going, it's going to be some other stuff too, and it gets pretty gnarly. Not that message is going to be for everyone, nor should it be.
No,
but
absolutely.
Just like, if you're going to do this stuff properly, you need to know that. Yeah.
And in the film, when I think it was Jessica Townsend, she said, "Oh, you should go ahead and you should be the one leading it," and you laughed.
I still laugh.
And you still laugh. Yeah. But look where you are now.
I'm just a dabbler. I mean, Writers Rebel are a brilliant group. They are continuing to do amazing work. I sort of showed up for a little while and I helped out with a couple of protests. I wasn't the driving force behind it at all. I laughed because I really did go, oh shit, I don't know if I can do that. And then I did do a bit of stuff, and then other people much more instrumental in that protest and the previous one, and continue to do that work. I'm a filmmaker.
But I think the message that we're trying to get to here is that dabbling is also okay.
Exactly.
Right?
The message is, at the end of the film, you're still you.
Yeah.
You might feel slightly better about yourself. You're also probably going to feel a bit more depressed as well. You're going to have more emotions and more swings. But you know what? Suck it up. You can take it. Yeah. If you're a relatively well-resourced person who cares about stuff, you can handle a bit of emotion and a bit of disappointment from time to time. And there are other things that are really great about it. But no, that is the core message. The core message is, people think, I can't do this because I'd have to become Greta Thunberg. I agree with it, but I'd have to chain myself to the M25, and obviously I'm not going to do that because I've got kids and that's just not me, right? But it's like, no, you still get to be exactly who you are, but just with a slightly climatey twist. So, if you're, in PR, do a bit of PR pro bono for a charity that does climate stuff. And if you're a lawyer, do some law. And if you're a baker, bake a cake and take it to Just Stop Oil protests and give it to them so they've got something to eat. And, you will find your speed. You'll find something that you can already do, that you enjoy and that you're good at, that doesn't involve you transforming your life so radically in ways that actually are fictional. That's not what radical change looks like, except for a very few people. And, the sort of, a real activist, those people are amazing and important, but it's to do with life stages, it's to do with where you are. So I think, that's definitely the message, is little things will,
Great, and that's what, Paul, you're trying to do with sort of the mass mainstream audience reaching as well. I wanted to just talk a little bit about what you're doing personally with waste, if you could talk about that. And I thought that was amazing, and how that is a great example of how personal actions can actually go a long way.
Yeah, and it actually all stemmed, just so people know, I try and live a waste-free life. Basically, I either put something in recycling and I know it's going to get recycled, or I just don't buy it in the first instance, and I haven't thrown my bin away for 3 years, to give an idea. And it's actually surprisingly easy. I thought I'd just do it for a couple of months and see how I got on. It's really easy, actually. So most of it is like just buying the right thing. And also then researching what you can do. If you have to buy something, how can I actually make sure this gets recycled? And there's great things out there like TerraCycle. I don't know if you guys have heard of TerraCycle. They recycle a lot of the hard to recycle stuff. Most supermarkets in the UK now, they, for example, do soft plastics. So you can take all your soft plastics, your cat pouches, you can take crisp packets and chocolate bars, and they all go in the same recycling area, which is for carrier bags, because it's the same machine that actually does all of those things. And yeah, so like James, who I'm staying with at the moment, he'll tell you that what I'm doing in the flat we're staying in, I pick up all the stuff that we've made, and then it all comes back with me in the luggage. So yeah.
That's amazing. Well done.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
I think that's great. I mean,
It's amazing. I'm still a waster and probably always will be a waster.
Be on your gravestone again, underneath, what was it, you got nailed or whatever it was earlier you said.
Waste man, yeah.
Waste
man. Not
but
dustbin
that
man,
goes to
waste man.
show that there are things that people can do in their daily life to just make a small difference and a small change. Well, maybe a big change, but it can go a long way. That's amazing.
You feel better doing it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's about living closer to your truth rather than, I've saved the planet because I recycled. It's more like, this is going to make me feel like I'm in the world in a better way, surely.
Well, I think it actually, if any of you are on Instagram, go and check out Rewriting Extinction and scroll down a little bit, and you'll see that albatross story that I was talking about the albatross mum that's feeding her chick waste. That's a real story that we fictionalized. And I literally, when I walk past and I see a general waste bin, I think, would I basically shove that down the throat of a chick? And that's stopped it like that. Every time I see a general waste bin, that image is in my head. And you probably all don't want that. I get that. It's not a nice image to be in your head, but it changes you like that. Like literally your whole kind of view of waste will change. Or go to Japan. If has anyone here been to Japan?
I went in April.
Yeah, and their relationship with waste is fucking brilliant. I love it. So for those who don't know, what you do if you're in sort of, especially outside of the cities, if you are sold something, the waste of the thing you are sold is your possession. So they don't have things like bins or trash cans if you're American, and you can't throw it away. The only thing you can do is take it home or take it back to the place you bought it, and then you give them the wrapper back, because that's their mentality. It's like you don't litter, you don't put things on the floor. And again, these things, when you come across different cultures or different people, it just shifts your mindset. And yeah, but I just do it, a combination of not wanting to feel guilty, and also, I've got to say, just a little bit of a personal pat on the back. It does make me feel good.
That's it.
Yeah, you just feel a little bit better. It's like, when if you do go for a run, or you go to the gym, or you play football or tennis, or whatever you do, you just get that little sort of dopamine surge afterwards, and you think, yeah, actually, maybe I'm not an utter shit. You kind of get that feeling, and that's why I do these things.
Amazing. And just touching on a point you mentioned there, which is projects globally, so you drew on the example of Japan. You've both worked with audiences or tried to reach audiences all over the world. What are some strategies that you use to help your storytelling resonate with those global audiences and maybe bridge cultural divides and try and inspire from other regions of the world?
I've got a really easy answer. Don't try and tell somebody else's story. If you're trying to set a story in, say, Indonesia, or you're trying to set it in, say, Northern Africa, I shouldn't be writing that story. It's not my story to tell. I don't understand it. So what we do is we work with influencers, content creators, experts, writers in country who have lived that thing, and they know that thing, and they feel it and experience it on a day-to-day basis. And so what we do, we're like kind of almost like ghostwriters to 380 people. Sorry, I'll wheel it back. We've got 380 different contributors in Rewriting Extinction all across the planet. What we do is we almost like lock ourselves onto the side of what the story they want to tell, and we help them tell that story in a way that means it's going to get to a larger audience than they normally would. So yeah, working through trusted messengers, people who, when they see it, they think that person is like me, or I resonate with that person, and just don't be that person who just goes, yeah, here's my take on India, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I that is like global empire building genius. I'm just like making one little film at a time, and it's true that I seem to be making increasingly films that are sort of in my own voice, that are like my truth or whatever, just they come from me. And I suppose the other answer is just jokes. Jokes are good, and can travel. They say they can't, but there are some that can. So jokes help, particularly when it's like a bleak extinction level threat. I think it's good to have a little bit of joke there for the trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think humour is a good one to help connect across boundaries. One other thing that I think both of you have used is sort of partnerships and networks. You mentioned you were over 300 contributors, and I know you've featured Cara Delevingne, Jane Goodall, Paul McCartney. What do you think the role is of people of influence, celebrities, influencers, people who have media presence in climate action?
So for me, I don't think they have any more or less role than anyone else. They're all humans. And that's something I think we often forget about celebrities, and that some of them have really hard lives. They might have money, but some of them live some of the saddest, most insulated and hurtful lives. So I don't think they have any more responsibility, but they do have. If they choose to use it, they have more ability and to reach an impact than we do. So what I've done throughout the project is just basically when I've worked with any of the I guess, celebrities or the talent, is I've said, look, what's the one thing that you've always wanted to talk about environmentally? Or what's the one animal? Or what's the one issue? And cool, let's do that. And then what we do is we pull together a team who can help advise on what the science is or the solution is, and we make a thing. A thing could be a comic, a meme, a song, film. And so, yeah, I mean, I do slightly balk against the idea that celebrities have more, more is expected of them, because I think that I just treat everyone as humans, no matter who they are, no matter who their background, what their background is. But I think that celebrities, if they want to do more, then let's do it. To bring it on. Let's do something really cool together that makes people laugh, that makes people cry, whatever you want. But that's the way we look at it, if that makes some sense.
Yeah, and I like that because that goes with our message of anyone can act. That also means everyone has equal responsibility. It doesn't mean that some people have more responsibility than anyone else.
Yeah.
I think before we finish up, just going to have a last question. Firstly, for Josh. So you mentioned that this was you dabbling. What is next on the sort of dabbling, and what do you think it is going to be on your climate action journey?
I'm trying to do a few things, but it's true that now that I've sort of drunk the climate Kool-Aid, and I just only want to I don't really see the point exactly in making other films and TV and content that isn't at least adjacent to climate or climate-related kind of questions. So I'm trying to go back a little bit into fiction. I'm writing a couple of scripts, just feature scripts. That's what I do. I do feature films and some documentary stuff. And yeah, it's film and TV, long-form film and TV. It's an embarrassment, really. You can count on one hand the movies made in the last 5 years that have had any. Documentaries are a little different. There's a lot of social justice, social action documentaries that are really good. But outside of that, where you see famous people, actors, whatever, playing a part, and there's a story, and you get into it, and you tune into Netflix, and you watch 10 episodes, and you binge watch more. Where are the climate stories in that? And there are quite a few people doing really interesting work trying to change it. I think the industry remains very, very scared of like the C word, and then you have to try and find ways to sort of slip it in and make it look like something else. But there need to be rom-coms, thrillers, werewolf movies, every genre, could have a sort of climate lens on its storytelling. So I'm trying to, from my little end, trying to sort of do that a bit more.
So no more Esso commercials?
No more Esso commercials. Do you know, funnily enough, ever since that film, they haven't offered. And it's just such a shame. Such a shame how that's... Car commercials just dried up. Don't know why. Yeah.
Josh, I've got an idea, mate. Why don't you take their money and then, put
Give
out
it
the
to
film?
you?
No. Put out a film or something like an advert for them, and then do something like a magic eye thing where you've got loads of subliminal messages inside it, and use that as like a Trojan horse.
My friend did that. It was brilliant. He got fired.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, you're not getting money from now, so this is a one hit. Get some big money in.
On that note, I think we probably have to wrap up. We have an amazing next act, which you should all stay for. But thank you both so much. We really enjoyed learning from you. And I think you guys have inspired me to make sure that in my daily life I'm not scared or embarrassed about the level of action I have, but actually proud of it.
Yes.
And trying to continue to inspire other people, all of us, to continue our climate action journeys in small ways. Thank you both
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you all for coming.
Yay.